Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. It's a Trigger. Rich Bontrager from On the Rock the Stage Media. Back once again on this Thursday with 2 p.m. live. And again, we're always here to help you shine on camera, shine on stage, to elevate you and your brand authority because you matter. And we want to give you tips and tricks and insights. And often I'm here sharing some of those. But once in a while, I bring a friend or two along. We have a little bit more fun and conversation. We're going to do that today. Last night, if you did not get to catch us live, for the wonderful episode of How to Rock the Stage Show. The podcast version of it is up last night. Sergio and I had a great conversation talking about the film The Cuban, talking about creativity and so much more. Scan that right there. Go listen to the podcast. It's streaming on Apple Podcasts and many other areas. And of course, it's always right there on our website as well. So hit that, love it, like it, share it, subscribe to it, all that usual stuff. And yeah. But we're going to get into another creative conversation here today because, as you know, I host summits, help people create summits, but this one's not about me. This is about someone else. So we're going to have another great speaker, influencer, and he is the virtual guy. There's the virtual event guy himself. Michael, how's it going today?
It's going good. How are you?
I'm doing fabulous. Michael Whitehouse is his name, and you do a lot of events like I do, but you also do them a little bit different sometimes, don't you?
Mm-hmm. Yes. So when I got into events, I've been into events since 1996 for live events, mostly starting the sci-fi space, sci-fi conventions and whatnot. I love meeting people. I love the energy of an event. So in 2020, when everything went online and I got kind of plugged into a much wider world than my little Southeast Connecticut here, I was like, oh, virtual events are going to be like live events, but without the travel and the expense and the hotel and the inconvenience. This is going to be amazing. And then so I went to one and I registered and I put my email address in and I got all excited and I logged in and there was like a box with some dude just talking at me, a semi-interactive chat box. And the next one I went to wasn't even that. It was a website and a bunch of videos with a flavor. And I'm like, this isn't an event. This is a library.
Yes.
So I said, if I'm going to run an event myself, at the time I didn't have plans to, I said, if I ever did, thinking it would be complicated, then I'm going to have a hallway and a bar because that's where the real business happens at an event. You ever go to any conference?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you learn some stuff from the people on stage, but the real action happens
in the
hallway, at the bar, in the lobby, at the
sometimes the bathroom.
Sometimes in the bathroom. So yes. So when I did run an event, I optimized it for that. I made sure there were the networking spaces. I used a platform called Slingshot at the time, which I don't use anymore because Zoom now does everything Slingshot did. But I made sure there's those interactive spaces, and the events I run now, after doing it 17 times, I've optimized it down to something where half the event is interactive time and half the event is speaking time, so that you come out of there having met people. You come out with calls on your calendar, whether they're discovery calls or networking calls or just people connected on LinkedIn. You feel like you went to an event and not just got some content, because content's everywhere. You can learn for any summit, mine or almost anyone else's. You can find the same content on YouTube whenever you want to on demand.
Well, and when you and I talked the other day, one of the differentiator is yours events are primarily free.
Yep.
And I do some limited free, but I believe the value of the content, because like you said, content's content, but I still believe the value of the content's worth paying for because you have experts. You have people in the field that know their stuff and they're worth honoring with that. Let's have a little debate here. What are you doing, man? Giving away free content.
Yeah, well, so the content is the hook to get the people, the audience, in contact with the speakers.
Right.
So my speakers tell me that the greatest benefit they get from attending is the connections with the other speakers.
Yep.
Now, sometimes the audience will book a discovery call. Sometimes they'll get people onto their list, into their funnel. That's the main reason people speak. But one of the biggest, if you go to a live event and you do it right, you get to meet the other speakers at that event. And they're often, those are your JV partners. Those are your collaborators. Those are people you're going to learn from, the people who want to learn from you. And they're often the ones at your level. So, if you've got a 7-figure business and you go to an event, the other speakers are probably at your level of expertise. And then the audience is at a lower level. That's why they're hiring you if you're in the business growth space.
Right. But now that's different here virtually because you don't have that standard. Everyone's all over the map.
That's true too. Yep.
You have people just beginning, you have the high level experts, and you have people that are working the ladder. So it's a very mix of bag now versus you're right. It used to be people that had the stage, had the critical following. They were the ones that showed up to those things. You're absolutely. So there is a difference here at this present time for virtual versus live, I think, right?
True. Yep. But for our speakers, what they find is the biggest benefit, the most reliable benefit is connecting with those other speakers so they can come to our event. Because if you're at the point where you're running programs and you're having partners promoting them and doing launches or whatever it is, and you're working with other people's audiences, now the biggest challenge is finding people who have audiences, finding people who want to partner with you, who have similar interests, similar audiences. And if I'm putting together a summit, all the speakers on that summit have an aligned audience because they're aligned to that summit, which means everyone in that summit is potentially joint venture partners with each other. And so they've got that value. And then on top of that, as an attendee, usually with a lot of these events, you come in and the speakers speak to you from on high and you receive their knowledge.
Right.
But you're not there with them. You're certainly not in conversations between them, unless there's maybe a panel discussion, which it tends to be a little, now we're going to a 20-minute panel discussion. So it's still talking points. But we'll do things like hot seats and Q&As and things that really get the speakers into a conversation. So the audience really feels like they're hanging out at a retreat with our speakers instead of just receiving their because a great speaker or a proficient speaker has their signature talk. So if they're like, hey, I want you to talk about marketing, cool. Well, they give their 15, their 20-minute, the 30-minute signature marketing talk. And then you go to another summit where they've been asked to do the same thing and they give almost the same talk because they're good at what they do and they're very proficient, but they don't step outside that box. And so we make it interactive. So after they give their talk, which is very practiced and very polished, we then also say, hey, this attendee has this challenge. What would you advise for them? Or, work with this person. How can you help them? Which really dives in and gives more unique quality.
So then you go from presenting to actually coaching in the moment.
Yeah. So we actually do live hot seats. So the audience
members for the online members that are viewers, that the attendees.
Yeah, for the attendees.
In a hot seat.
Mm-hmm.
So that's an interesting twist. Again, that's not one that we're doing. We for most of our events are giving them a 30-minute block. Now they get to decide how they're going to use their 30 minutes. Mm-hmm. Are they going to do all 30 speaking? Are they going to do 20 minutes of speaking, 10 minutes of discussion interviews that I help kind of moderate? Are they going to use it a different way? But you do a 15-minute block of presentation, right? And then you slide into this interactive hot seat.
Yes.
Why did you choose 15 over the 30-minute block? Was there a rationale of time, content, quality? What kind of played into that?
I get bored. Okay. And so I build it for an audience like me. I started doing that. I didn't start this as, I'm going to build a business around events. I said, I'm going to run the events I want to attend. And then after running them for a year and a half, people said, hey, could I pay you to run one for me? And I said, wait, you want me to run this not commercially viable thing I built around what I find fun? You want to pay me for it? Okay. And then that's when I started, shifting into that brand presence. But I built it around, this is the event I want to attend, the event I'll find fun. And what I found is that with the longer blocks, 30 and especially 45 and 50 and 60 minutes,
those are way too long.
So 15 minutes forces you to cut all the fat. So one thing that you won't get a lot of from speakers on my stage is bio and background, unless they are teaching through their story.
Right.
But I was on an event. It was a live event. It was pretty interactive, pretty good event, but it was 45-minute blocks. And I remember noticing one of the speakers got to minute 22 and had not started the content yet.
Yes, I have seen that as well.
Story.
Yes.
Yeah. And what I've found is most effective is that people don't tell their story at all. They jump straight into, here's what I'm going to teach you. Yeah. Because I can vet if I think you're full of crap or not based on what you teach me. If you tell me I've been in this for 27 years, I have this degree, and I know this person, I worked with Tony Robbins, blah, blah. One, I don't believe you, and two, I don't care. Tell me what you're going to teach me. After you've taught me, then you may say, I actually learned what I just told you from working with Les Brown. Oh, that's interesting. But get to the point, because I don't know. even if this is, wisdom of the ages, I don't know if it applies to me.
Well, okay. So let's talk about that. There are some significant things here that I think people want to be aware of, because you're right. You should have a story to tell to get the hook, to get the energy, and then teach. Or you need to have a hook of some time to get them into the engagement. Because again, if you're getting a 15-minute window, you can't just give data. People will turn out. You can't have it all be story. So do you coach them a little bit on how to make it work for your environment, or are you leaving it up to them? And
I
if
have
they
left
fly
it up
or
to
sink,
them.
it's up to them.
I have left it up to them. I am thinking I do need to create more coaching content. I don't spend a lot of time with the speakers either, but I am thinking it might be worth creating some material for them. But what I find is a lot of the speakers, they come in, they are confident in their ability, which is independent of how the level of their ability, but they're confident. So they're not going to say, "Hey, Michael, teach me how to speak on your stage." Like, this is my 14th summit speaking. I don't need to learn how to speak. So they just, I don't coach too much because they're not asking for it.
So then how do you litmus test them? How do you check? Because again, more and more of the events that I'm working with, creating, and even that I've attended, I'm like, I do want to know who kind of the A-listers are, and I do want to know some of those that are the weaker. I intentionally want to put them wrapped around so you don't have 3 of the weaker ones back to back to back, because people will leave and never come back. So how
this
do you
comes
check this?
The second answer to your question, why 15 minutes? Because every one of those speakers is wrapped around by me, because it's a 15-minute interactive block. So if someone's on the stage and they are atrocious, they're still only there for 15 minutes, unless they run over their time, and that's what makes them atrocious. And if they're bad and they run over their time, they're blacklisted. They never see my stage again. So there we go. This has only happened once, that someone ran over, was overly salesy, and will never be coming back. But I try to make clear, here's what we expect, here's your time, whatnot. So if they're atrocious 15 minutes, I don't actually I don't put breaks in my event, because I'm not tying anyone to their chair. They're going to, you need to go to the bathroom, you're going to go to the bathroom. You'll turn your camera off and off you go. So if I put a break in, what happens when I'm a consumer of an event, I'll be on the event and I'll be like, oh, I'm getting really hungry. I'm going to go grab lunch while this guy's talking. And I grab lunch and I come back and they're like, all right, well, thank you. Now it's time for our lunch break. I'm like, I just took a lunch break. So my events are only 6 hours, so I don't put a break in it. You can dash off and grab a sandwich. You can run off to the bathroom.
So I want to interrupt, because you just said a big one there.
Yep.
Your events are only 6 hours. So yeah, you are leaving it for people to come and go, because it's 6 hours. The events I mostly do are an hour and a half to 3 hours, because I do want them to say it. I do want them to be a part of that event. I don't want it to be 6 hours of random coming and going, because I feel there's a value to be in the experience all the way through. So again, those are big differences.
Yeah.
And again, I'm just laying them out for the audience to hear that.
But many of the people actually do stay the whole 6 hours. By the end of almost every event I have, at least one person says, I didn't know I could be on Zoom for 6 hours. And, I can go another hour right now, because it's a matter of creating the engagement, creating the bringing people into it. But so to the question of what happens if someone's not very good, that after 15 minutes, people are like, oh, this person's not great. You know what? I need to go to the bathroom anyway. Let me grab a cup of coffee, come back. They're gone. I come back on. I put on some music. I send people in breakouts. I have them turn their mics back on. We do something really active, get the energy back up, and we're back into it. And then, of course, I know, don't invite that person back, or put them in a pre-recorded slot, not a live slot. And I learned that way. But so most of the speakers are pretty good in when you pare them down to 15 minutes. You give them 30 minutes and they'd be a disaster. Right. But 15, everyone's got one nugget, one piece of wisdom, a video they watched this morning that they're parroting back. Everyone's got something to share. But the way I describe my events is that they are a 6-hour event punctuated by speakers. So it's not a series of speakers. It is an event, an interactive event with networking, breakouts, hot seats, coaching, and once every half hour, someone's going to come and teach you something. And then we're going to get back to the interactive stuff. It's kind of like how I watch the Super Bowl. That it's a 3-hour event punctuated by football.
Yeah.
But mostly I'm watching commercials. And then occasionally there's some people running around throwing balls, which is also kind of interesting. But But so it's two separate types of events, but that's also why I don't publish the schedule in advance, because I don't want people saying, oh yeah, I want that speaker and that speaker, because I want them to come to an event, not simply come to a speaker.
Overall, you promote the people overall, but you do not let them know which day, what time, and things like that. This is the QR code for your next upcoming event. Briefly tell us what this little next event is all about for the 6-hour excursion you have.
So actually, this is my third upcoming event, but this is the next upcoming event that Trigger is going to be on, and that's what matters. So this is the Speaker Success Summit. The theme of this is it is for people who want to be more successful speakers, whether it's someone just getting started saying, oh, speaking might be interesting, or someone who's already on stages and wants to learn how to do better, wants to learn how to convert on stage, wants to learn how to hold audience attention. Really a lot of stuff we just talked about. So a speaker who would like to be more successful should come to this summit. Thus, the very cryptic name, Speaker Success Summit. Took us hours of workshopping with a very expensive marketing team to come up with this name. Hit
that QR code. Make sure you go join it. Michael Whitehouse. I almost said Michael Westmore, but it's Michael Whitehouse.
Yeah, on the screen right
there. Reach out to him. He's on all the social media. We also just have been showing the Twitter. Michael, thanks for dropping by with 2 p.m. with the Trigger here. And we are going to jump out because we got more things to get done today. Hey, but we'll be back again Friday for another 2 p.m. with the Trigger. You never know who's going to show up, but it's always good, insightful. And thanks for coming along and playing along today. We will see you 2 p.m. with the Trigger tomorrow. And remember,